an update on the wildfire situation in northern Alberta. Municipal Affairs Minister Madu will then provide an update on the situation with evacuees. We will then turn it over to our technical experts, Shane Schreiber, Managing Director of the AEMA, and Chrissy Tucker, Information Unit Lead at Alberta Wildfire. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And I'd like to begin by thanking the men and women of wildlife management, the wildland firefighters, the local firefighters from over 30 municipalities across Alberta, the RCMP and first responders that are out in our northern part of the province fighting these fires. On the ground and in the air, working around the clock to keep Albertans safe at their homes and businesses. I would like to acknowledge the challenges faced by those who have been displaced, evacuated, or affected by these fires. I want the evacuees to know that we are doing everything in our power to keep you safe, to support you, and when the time is right, get you back home quickly as possible. This fight is going to be a tough one. The weather is not cooperating for the long distance forecast for the next 2 weeks. It's more of the same of hot, dry, and windy conditions. Albertans need to prepare themselves for this situation for the foreseeable future. Smoke is a huge factor in this challenge, not only for health reasons, but for the wildland firefighters on the ground. The loss of visibility makes it extremely difficult to use air supports. There are currently 28 active wildfires in Alberta, 9 of which are burning out of control. My ministry is working hard to patrol, monitor, and control these fires. We currently have over 2,300 active firefighters on the ground, as well as 200 helicopters, 150 heavy equipment, and 27 air tankers fighting these fires. In spite of our best efforts, shifting winds that are causing the smoke to drift, and most of Alberta will be impacted by this smoke in the coming days. This smoke impacts have created a significant increase in evacuees. We began the day yesterday with approximately 5,500 evacuees, and we currently have over 10,000, which Minister Madu will be addressing shortly. The town of Slave Lake is currently on an 8-hour evacuation alert. Because of extreme wildfire danger, a fire ban and off-highway vehicle restriction for northern Alberta was expanded to cover the entire forest protection area for Alberta for the Edson Forest area north. For everyone's safety, we ask that you make sure that you have the latest information about fire bans and restrictions in your area. This information is available at albertafirebans.ca, and we encourage all Albertans to be especially vigilant in our forested areas as we remind everyone that if they spot a fire, to report it immediately by calling 310-FIRE. For up-to-date information on wildfire status, please visit wildfire.alberta.ca and follow Alberta Wildfire on social media or download the Alberta Wildfire app for Apple and Android devices. We will continue to share new information as it becomes available, and we will continue to do our best to fight these fires. We thank the public for your understanding and support during this challenging time. And with that, I'll hand it over to Minister Madu.
Thank you, Minister Dreeshen. Good afternoon. I'd like to start off by saying thank you to the many people across our great province who are working to help the people evacuated from their communities. My colleagues and I are working closely with our hard-working emergency officials and first responders who are working around the clock. I'd like to thank the people who are working so hard to coordinate our emergency operations and keep us briefed as the situation in Northern Alberta continues to unfold. Premier Kenny was just at the Provincial Operations Center this afternoon, speaking to staff there. They have also prepared me well as I head to high level tomorrow. As Minister Dreeshen has laid out, the hot, dry, windy weather forecasted is expected to bring further wildfire risk across many areas of the province. We are grateful to the brave men and women who are on the ground fighting this fire. And our top priority is protecting those who live in the communities in the area. As of midnight last night, 9,500 people have been evacuated. Additional evacuation orders and alerts have been issued throughout the day. These Albertans are being supported by the generosity of neighboring communities who have opened reception centers and provided places for them to stay. Evacuation orders are now in effect for the following areas: the town of High Level and areas to the south and southeast of town, Mackenzie County, including the Lacrete Ferry Campground and Stone River, Deneter First Nation, the communities of Boucher River, Meander River, and Charter, Pado Prairie Métis Settlement, Keg River, Cacajou, and all residents living in the northern border of County of Northern Light, the hamlet of Wabasca, Sandy Lake, and Chippewa Lake Village in the Municipal District of Opportunity, the Big Stone Cree Nation, the hamlet of Martin Beach and Lesser Slave Lake Provincial Park. Additionally, residents of Slave Lake should be prepared to evacuate on short notice if required. Residents in the town of Manning, other parts of Mackenzie County, and Peerless Trout First Nation should also be ready to evacuate. Financial assistance is currently being provided to evacuees of the town of High Level, parts of Mackenzie County, Deneter First Nation, and the Pado Prairie Métis Settlement. This funding will help pay for immediate housing needs and day-to-day purchases such as groceries, gas, and much more. So far, more than 6,200 people have applied for relief payment, and more than $6 million has been processed. This funding is critical to ensure Albertans are properly supported during this very challenging time. If you were in one of the 4 original areas during the time of evacuation, please go to Evacuation Assistance website at alberta.ca/emergency to apply for financial assistance. Communities eligible for financial assistance will be updated on this website as the situation develops. The wildfires are expected to continue to threaten communities in northern Alberta, and there is still hard work ahead. I encourage all Albertans to download the Alberta Emergency Alert app so that they can stay informed and stay safe. Thank you. With that, I would turn it over to our departmental officials for their remarks and for any questions that you may have.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Shane Schreiber. I'm the Managing Director of the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, and I've just got a few more details and then be available to take your questions. So, fire activity led to expanded evacuations in Mackenzie County and the County of Northern Lights throughout yesterday and early this morning. The town of Slave Lake, as the minister has said, is currently on an 8-hour evacuation alert. That means people should be ready to move at 8 hours' notice, if so warned. We have received an incredible amount of help from across Alberta and Canada. There are about 200 structural firefighters and structural protection units that have deployed from various communities across Alberta up north to help protect those communities that have evacuated. And more than 600 firefighters and support staff from across Canada, wildfire fighters from across Canada, are coming in, and I'll let Christy talk a little bit more about that. High temperatures, dry conditions, and winds may change the direction of the fires today and in the coming days. And so I just say to everyone, please be vigilant, watch the weather, and download the Alberta Emergency Alert app so you can have the latest information on any emergency alerts in your areas. Widespread evacuations and the rapidly changing conditions have led us to elevate the Provincial Operations Centre, that is the province's Emergency Operations Centre, to level 4, and that means all Government of Alberta departments, many of our key federal stakeholders like the Department of National Defence and Public Safety Canada, and also key industrial and non-governmental organizations are now down at the POC helping to coordinate support to evacuees and the response activities. We appreciate everybody's support and cooperation, and especially those who have welcomed their neighbors from across Alberta into their communities. And with that, I'll turn it over to Christy to talk about some more detail on the wildfire side.
Thank you, Shane. My name is Christy Tucker. I'm the Information Unit Lead for Alberta Wildfire. The last 24 hours have been an extremely challenging time for firefighters in Alberta. Because of the ongoing dry and windy conditions, the very low relative humidity, we saw fires moving very quickly, even at night when they wouldn't traditionally be moving so quickly. We saw a number of the fires that are active right now in Alberta. As the minister mentioned, there are 9 out-of-control fires in Alberta right now. We saw a number of them grow significantly over the last 24 hours, and that is why we are so happy to have the help from across Canada that has been mentioned. We have more than 600 firefighters here from provinces all across Canada, British Columbia, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Northwest Territories, PEI. We're expecting another incident management team coming in from Ontario very shortly to help us out. Not all of these resources are working on the Chuckegg fire around high level. They are going to be used as and when we need them across Alberta. So far, since March 1st, when fire season began here in Alberta, we have recorded 502 wildfires, and they've burned a total of 374,768 hectares. And that is higher than the 5-year average for the same period, which is 548 wildfires, but they only burned 131,712 hectares of land here in Alberta. Chuckegg Creek wildfire is now 230,000 hectares. It had some significant movement overnight. It traveled about 30 kilometers south yesterday between noon and 4 o'clock this morning, which means it was traveling at about a rate of about 23 meters a minute down south. We saw some extreme fire behavior, and the growth was toward the community of Paddle Prairie across Highway 35, and it's spotted across the Peace River, which is a 700-meter river. And we saw growth on the other side of that river. We've also seen growth on a number of other fires, including a Jackpot Creek, which is up further north in high level, Maria Lake, which is in Slave Lake area, and McMillan Complex, also in the Slave Lake area, and those two fires are growing closer together. They both significantly grew overnight, 45,000 hectares, 845 from Maria Lake fire, and the McMillan Complex is now 133,952 hectares. So because of these conditions, we have seen a lot of growth in the last day. Conditions are stabilizing a little bit today, but we still don't have any foreseeable relief in the conditions, and so we're expecting fires to continue, and we'll continue to fight them with the assistance from across Canada that we've been getting.
Okay, great. At this time, we're going to open the floor up for questions.
Yeah, I think there's been some question about houses being lost in Paddle Prairie. Is there any update on that?
Crews are traveling to Paddle Prairie. As you know, there's a lot of smoke in the air in Alberta right now. It makes it difficult to fly, as the minister mentioned. So we have been sending crews there in person to assess the damage, but of course, the structural firefighters who are working there in the town will be the ones responsible, and the municipality will have a better picture of what the situation is in Paddle Prairie.
So we're not sure yet then, in other words?
I haven't had a number from them, but I think they are the ones on the ground who are working on the structures. Thanks.
Okay,
Sorry,
in the back.
just want to bounce on that, because I talked to someone from that settlement who said that they actually had to send 2 of their own people to assess the houses there, because there was the city, well, the authorities weren't. So you're saying that you sent officials to assess the house, or no? Not?
Things, as I mentioned, moved very, very quickly overnight and in the last 24 hours. It's difficult to get ahead of a fire that's moving that fast. And so we have been working very closely with the municipality and working with the people in the town who are trying to keep the structures safe. And of course, I know there's a lot of concern about the safety of structures, as with anybody who's been evacuated from a town that's in danger from wildfire. Certainly, if people aren't getting answers fast enough, they might go and look for their own. But certainly that information flow, we're trying to keep it moving as quickly as possible. We have a lot of people spread out across the province, and we're looking for that information. We really can't get it fast enough, but we are working on getting it, because people have to travel oftentimes in person to get an assessment of what the situation is.
Okay, I think we have a question on the line.
So I was just gonna say, coordination is such an important aspect to this, because there are so many different municipalities that are assisting locally, and there's our Provincial Operations Center. And so there's a lot, it's a tremendous undertaking to make sure that everyone is coordinated. So we would hate to say something that was inaccurate or was just a suggestion or someone heard. So we are doing very best when we do publicly communicate. We know for 100% certainty that is the case. So we would hate to give out misinformation.
Okay, so-
Sorry, I'll just tell you what I know and what I don't know. I do know that there are structural protection units in the more built-up or urban area of Paddle Prairie, and that we have not had any reports of losses of any buildings where the structural protection units are. Those are sprinkler systems and structural firefighters. What we don't know is further out, some remote outbuildings. We don't know if we may have lost some of them. And I've heard varying numbers too, but until they're confirmed, it would be wrong of me to say them.
Okay, I think we have a question on the line from the Western producer. Operator, can you put that question through?
Our first question comes from Jeremy Sims, the Western producer. Your line is open.
Hi, I've been hearing that some livestock have been moved. Can you just tell me about that? How many, that sort of deal?
As of right now, especially with the high-level fire, it is encroaching down into the Crete, and it's getting closer to actual agricultural land. So as of right now, the numbers are a little fluid. So again, I can get back to you on the specifics when we have the livestock numbers. We're unfortunately focused a little more on the people in the evacuees, but yes, we can find the livestock numbers.
Okay, no, that sounds good. And then I'm also I want to make sure this is right too, but in those livestock farming areas where they might have been evacuated or have been evacuated, are producers allowed, or have they been allowed to go back and maybe feed animals that maybe are still lingering there?
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Check.
So, in some cases, if they have made arrangements with the Municipal Emergency Operations Center, producers may be allowed to look after livestock that are essentially, for lack of a better term, sheltering in place. But that'll depend heavily on whether or not it's safe enough to do that. So the answer is yes, but I can't give you further details.
Okay.
It would be a case by case, yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, Shane, can you just, you were talking about how we're at a level 4.
Yeah.
Can you describe what that means and what that means for firefighting and for emergency?
Right, so level 4 in the Provincial Operations Center, there's 4 levels. The first level is 24/7 monitoring with the duty officers. Level 2 is we bring in staff from a few select Government of Alberta departments that are specifically responsible. Level 3 is what we were at yesterday, which is we bring in reps from every Government of Alberta department to make sure that our response is coordinated. And then level 4 is we bring in everybody from the Government of Alberta, many of our federal partners, so like I said, Department of National Defence, Public Safety Canada, Indigenous Services Canada, and we open the doors to bring in some industrial and non-governmental operations partners. So for instance, we have a rep from APCO there, so we can get best possible information on what's going on with the power grid. We have a rep right now from CN Rail who is in there to talk to us about the rail grid. So that's what we do, and it's important for us to be able to put all the pieces together so we can provide good information to decision makers and good information to Albertans.
Is there a level 5?
There's no level 5.
So we're at the top level then?
We're at the top level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.